welcome to another episode of Metacast with
The Alchemist
and Alex of Ascending Tribe. So I know it's been a little while because obviously we agreed to do once a month, and I think our last one was in February, and that's just been the one that's been on the YouTube for a little while. So we have been due a podcast for a little while. However, we have struggled, Issa and I, to align our schedules. But we're here now and we feel quite drawn to talk about oneness.
being one, one with the universe.
Yeah, well, for me, it came around this conversation around love, because love is such a complicated topic, because there's so many perceptions of love, and there's so many different types of feeling of love. And how do you know, Issa, if you're in lust or in love? How do you define that? How do you even know that? Have you ever experienced something like that?
Sure. I don't have a great answer for that. That's big. How do you know if you're in lust or love? I suppose the best way to find out would be time, because lust is something that'll fade eventually, and love is something that's it's different. It doesn't always mean you want to be around a person. It doesn't, but just wanting good for the person, or wanting good for another, I think is love.
And also love grows, doesn't it? So do you think it's quite rare for someone to just fall in love?
I don't think anybody falls in love. I think people can walk in love, and maybe somebody come across their path that's easy to love. But I don't think people just fall in love, or not in the sense of at first sight. I think first sight, all you have at fingertips is lust. But you can be a loving person and spread love equally to everyone.
I also feel like it depends on people's values as well.
For sure. There's
values.
And there's compatibility, there's compatibility issues. That's a very dense topic. There's a lot of information. Love is almost incomprehensible in the scientific world. It doesn't make sense. It goes beyond all logic. The most easily understandable and most basic of our logics is self-preservation. It's almost instinctual, and love goes against that. Love will cause you to put yourself in danger for others, and it goes against the laws of nature. It's magical, and it's hard to explain.
Yeah,
because it has a lot of ways of there's a lot of symptoms that you can point out of love, but it's hard to point the finger at the love.
I find it really interesting though that how love can feel very different. Like with different people, it feels very, very different,
And it's because love is personal. A lot of people interpret love, or what they perceive to be love, and another person in the same exact predicament would perceive it to be hate or disdain or uncomfortable. It's all a part of our programming. The way we express love and the way we receive love is very personal and very unique and very individual.
Yeah. My love.
But about
me a sandwich.
I think that goes hand in hand with oneness. I think being one is to show love, because being one would be to understand things as they are and not from a perspective. And to understand things as they are would take all conflict and friction away, and would cause unification of self and reality, or the matrix that contains self. And it would cause you to the grievances you feel because of unfairness you perceive and the grievances you feel because of friction and hurt and pain would no longer exist, because you would be one with all those experiences, and you would understand them in a way that it would take the pain and it will allow like the avenue for love, because nothing is as personal as we make it, and yet it's all very personal.
Yeah, but why wanting to go down this topic of love is for a couple of reasons, actually. So I've had a few friends that have been struggling with relationships, and it got me thinking and pondering about, well, how do you know if it's lust or love? Because someone can really believe that they are in love, but actually it's not love, because when you look at the actions of this specific person, or the traits or whatever it is, that's not acting out of love, so that cannot be love. So I guess it's about looking at the actions, right?
Well, you may be in love, but you may not be loving the right thing. That's another thing. Just because you love something, if you ask any avid, addict of a hard drug, they'll tell you they love it or they hate it. But the point is that it doesn't mean it's good for them, and it doesn't mean it's the right thing to love. I think first, what qualifies you to make the choice, because you're making the choice for someone, whether it be self or the other person, but typically we make the choice for ourselves. Yourself, and like the self who you are that gets carried around, and the self that makes the day-to-day decisions aren't the same person. There's a person inside you that just gets carried along and gets to experience the things that you choose, and that's usually like the higher self. It's in the background going, no, don't do that, or you could have made a better choice, or better. They get dragged around, and so a lot of times the guy making the choices, or the person making the choices, isn't even qualified to make the choices. A lot of times we love things that aren't good for us. And
but do you think love is a choice? Because you're making me really question now. I don't think love is a choice. I think it's a feeling that can often consume and take control, and then this kind of leads me on to the next point.
Happiness is a choice.
Yeah.
And that's a feeling. Of course, love is a choice. I think it is. I don't want to argue or tell you that your beliefs aren't valid. I believe love to a degree is a choice. I believe there's a point where you lose control, like love is set, and then once it's there, it can't be easily. But you can choose to not go further and not allow love, is what I mean.
Well, like love is quite consuming.
Could be.
It's quite controlling.
And are we speaking like the everyday love? Like, are we speaking love as a universal force, the pure form of love?
Well, this is
kind
of.
Are we talking about?
I want to talk about all of it, because, like, at the end of the day, one, I feel like we come from love. We come from love. Yeah.
In what way?
Everyone I'm going to get to that. Hang on. In every like society, in every sense, essentially, that's what most people are searching for, is love. And then you've got self-love. I mean, that's a whole different other topic. Yeah. Self-love, romantic love of a child, unconditional love, conditional love, unconditional love,
Right.
I think there's so many different types of love, and I feel like it looks like a tree, and then as you kind of go into the deeper type of love, you get the trunk, which is like original unconditional love, which is like sort of where we come from,
Right. And I think that exists very little on the planet. Like, it's like reserved for like between like mother and child type deal. I think most loves we have today are conditional. And I guess when I was speaking about it earlier, when I was saying it was a choice, in my head I was thinking more like relationships, because that's it was brought up about your friends being in relationships. So I was thinking more like you can choose to love a person, or you can choose to ignore red flags and go further and allow yourself to, become infatuated or love a person, or you can choose to see the red flags and back away and not allow things to go any further. I think that's what I meant. You have some sort of control.
Yeah,
But
and I just
as
want
a feeling, no.
I just want
Go
to just
ahead.
like add to that, yeah, because it's like with that type of love, when you're talking about the red flags, now I've been in this situation where I ignore the red flags. I've had friends that are in the situation or have been in the situation where they ignore the red flags. And why does that come up? It's a yearning for wanting the love.
We want to give, yes,
We want to be
that plays
loved.
a bit.
People want to be loved.
We want to be loved, and we want the ones we love to be right.
And isn't trauma a lack of love?
Yeah, sure. Trauma can be a place void of love, but trauma can also be a place full of toxic love or hate, or some kind of poison disguised as love. There's points where it can become ugly, I suppose.
What do you think
Misplaced, or
about manipulated energy, such as I messaged you about this the other day about incubus and succubus energy?
I think those energies are meant for self-gratification, and by nature are malicious because they come at the cost of others. And so when we talk about incubus and succubus, succubus being, the draining of others' energies, typically through sexual prowess, uh, that's wrong in any sense of the word. And it's dark magic. It's you're entering into like the dark realm of magic. Anything you can do, you can tell your friend the ugliest lie with the right intentions, or not the ugliest. You can tell your friend a lie with the right intentions and it be love. And just for example, just so I can clarify, you can lie to your friend about where you're going with the intention of surprising them for a surprise birthday party, and that's love. And you can tell somebody the sweetest truth with malicious intent, and it's evil. And typically we look at truth as a good thing, and it is a good thing, but it can be used for the dark.
I guess, yeah, exactly what you're saying about the intent. I think with the incubus and the succubus energy, what gets me very curious about that, because in my life I have met guys that have that incubus energy about them, and they're very manipulating, just the same way that women can be as the succubus and have that and succubus energy. But what always made me curious, and it only got me pondering, because a friend of mine has a current experience with a guy that's exactly what I felt from him, to be honest, when she was sending me certain screenshots or voice notes or whatever. Do you think that these men and women that have this type of energy, are they aware of this energy? As in, are they intentionally using their sexuality to entice and manipulate other people?
Well, succubus energy, just in general, is promoted in the media, and it's not advertised as succubus energy. It's advertised as girl power a lot of times, and it's almost comedic to see a woman get out of a speeding ticket by flirting with the police officer. But that's succubus energy. You're using your sexuality to come to an end that's in your benefit, with no intention of, you didn't wake up that day wanting to pick up a cop. You got pulled over. So yeah, I think it's some people do it knowingly, not knowing what it is. Like they are intentfully using sexuality to gain their means, but they don't realize that that equals succubus energy. They may not be informed in the, you know, terminology, but to some degree they understand what they're doing. And there's some people that don't. I believe there's some people that have just always known or have just always had success getting, you know, the ends that they desired by being sexual, and don't realize that that's the pattern. It's just been the way their life has turned out. Maybe they were exploited when they were young for sex, and they think that's the language of love or the language of the world. So they don't intend to use it maliciously, but, you know, they're misdirected.
I think that's such a powerful point as well, especially what you're saying about with the media, because as you and I both know, sex magic is used in the mainstream very, very heavily to manipulate the masses. And with that, there was a point that I was going to make, and now I can't remember what the point was.
Media manipulating masses.
Yeah, I completely lost the point now. But it was basically about how other people go around manipulating, and then like what you were saying about how people equate sex to love, especially
That's a common misunderstanding that I've noticed. People equate sex to love, and also equate the or rationalize the common steps of love as sex being one of them. And love is something that occurs between humans, period. It doesn't have to be sexual in nature in the least. I have friends I love that, you know, they're just friends and that's just who they are. Love is one thing. It's one thing, and it's used in a lot of different areas, but love is singular. And we then go into deeper love when you talk about, and you're actually going into different areas when you talk about intimacy and passion and you know, sexuality. Those things are on a different level. Those aren't necessarily love, they're symptoms of love, and a lot of them are shared, you know. Intimacy is shared amongst men in a very very wholesome way, where men are intimate about vulnerabilities and insecurities and able to communicate with one another and uplift one another. And I think that there's a big misconception in where the lines are, and I think we've drawn invisible lines in areas where they don't need to be. I think we've caused mental illness because men are afraid to share their vulnerabilities and be intimate or vulnerable around other men, because it's perceived to be, you know, unacceptable or weakness or some form of, you know, flaw in their manhood. And these things are actually very healthy and very necessary. And, you know, we all know the old saying, iron sharpens iron. Well, if you're not going to share anything, how is that ever going to happen? And I think there is a misconception between sexuality and love. And I think there's a big misunderstanding, because sexuality is easy and love is rare. And it rarely lines up that every person, or most people for that matter, that you have sex with are going to be somebody you truly love.
I think, go on.
And if the love, you may love the person, but you may not desire to be in an intimate relationship with them, or you may not desire to be in a relationship where you have to depend on them for resources or responsibility. Just because you love somebody doesn't mean you have to commit your life to them.
Yeah, I think this ties back into self-love as well.
And that's the most important. I think that's the most important topic when it comes to love, is self-love. Sorry.
Yeah. No. You can keep going with that if you're going somewhere.
Well, yeah. One of my favorite points to make about self-love is, you know, you're born in this world alone, and you die in this world alone. And self is your oldest and will continue to be your oldest and will be your last friend. The last person you'll speak to and the first person you spoke to was self. And the need for investment in that area and self-love is beyond recognition. People are not realizing how far self-love is declined, or I don't know if it's ever been there, but how far down it is where compared to where it should be.
I think my personal journey is of self-love. I've only kind of embarked on this self-love journey very, very recently, and it's still a challenge. I think it's like one of the most difficult types of love.
And you can't truly love another until you can love self. And you can't truly be loved by another until you love self, because you'll never accept the things they say about you and the things the way they see. You'll never accept that image until you see it, until you view yourself equally or higher.
Yeah, I mean, how do people get into relationships then?
They do. I'm not saying that you won't be in a relationship. Relationships happen all the time based on very shaky foundations.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to add on to that quickly, because like what I'm trying to say is when I met my partner, I was in a place where I did not love myself. Or maybe maybe it was on the beginning of the journey, because I'd left a toxic relationship and I started going to the gym and I was starting to look after my body. So I don't know, maybe because I was at the beginning of a journey.
Have you ever felt like you didn't deserve how good it was?
Yeah.
Have you ever? Okay, that's what I mean. Like, that's saying that you think what he's doing for you is better than you deserve, which means you wouldn't do it for you. And that's what I mean. You should want to do that for you as equally as much as he does, or more, because you are your oldest friend. You should love you more than he loves you. You've known you longer. And that's what I think I meant by that. Not to say that relationships don't happen. They do happen. And there's a lot of relationships where both parties don't love themselves and they just drudge through life together. But I think the way it's meant to be is I love me just as much as you love me, and I love you just as much as I love me, and you love you just as much as I love you. And we all love self and each other equally. And I think in a state where you love yourself as much as your partner loves you, when your partner tells you how great you are, you will agree, I am great. And when you tell them how great they are, they'll agree, I am great, because they equally can appreciate themselves the way they're being appreciated by others.
But also I think it depends on the person as well, because for me, I really feel like he loved me in such a healing way that it helped me to love myself. Does that make sense? And I feel like there are people that need that.
Yeah, for sure.
Love is healing.
For sure.
So I don't necessarily agree with you can't love another without loving yourself in that same way. I mean, maybe in the same respect that what you were saying, in a mutual way, yes.
I think I was just meaning you can't fully comprehend the love. You can comprehend it to a degree, and it doesn't mean you don't feel love and you don't return love. But to see it in its fullness, you would have to see yourself the way they see you. Because how can you see what they see unless you see yourself the way they see you? If you think of yourself as undeserving, then you don't see what they see, because they see you as deserving. And how can you love something that you don't see as deserving as much as they love something, because they obviously see it as deserving? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, I don't mean to say that you can't be in love, or you can't. I just mean that you can't see the full picture the way they do, or they don't see the full picture as much as you do, or however the case. In order for you both to see the same thing, you both have to have the same perspective.
Yeah. And then this leads into oneness. How? Because everyone is
because
seeking love. Everyone is seeking love. Everyone
everyone
in the
is
world
seeking
is
love.
seeking love.
That's one of our first desires as children, to be accepted and validated, and to feel valued. And we translate oftentimes when someone values us as love. And it's not, that might be a warped feeling like being valued, because that's the desire to be needed, and being needed isn't being loved.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it coincides with oneness, because like you said, we come from a source that is love. We come, humanity's beginning came from somewhere that was one, and that oneness allows for understanding of every moving part, and the understanding allows for appreciation, and appreciation allows for the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you can appreciate every moving part and you love the thing, and that means you have to see yourself outside of the individuality you have. I tell people, individuality is the gift of humanity. It's the gift of flesh. You get to be an individual, and you're in a matrix of this world where you can leave a mark. Being here, you can change things. You can go outside and speak to your neighbor right now and make a difference, and he'll remember you. And when you die, you'll have a legacy of at least one person that knows you were profound. But once you die and you move on and the energy is returned to source and you're one, that comes at the cost of individuality. So the gift of humanity is individuality at the cost of pain. You have a physical body that experiences pain, and you have a mental, structure that's limited and doesn't understand everything, which is translated as pain, emotional pain. But losing your individuality returns you to source, and there you're no longer Alexandra, the individual, but you're an energy in a conglomerate known as one, God, universe, source, the all. You return to this conglomerate of energy, but you lose your Alexandra, and you lose, and that comes at the benefit of no pain and oneness and true love the way it was meant to be when it was invented.
It's so interesting that you talk about this. I just love how exactly you put that, because last week I was going through quite a dark time, and I was feeling like I don't like separation. I'm not enjoying separation. Like, I really just feel like I'm ready for everyone to unite,
I've been experimenting lately for the last few months with a thought process. So I've been trying to look at myself less out of my eyeballs and like seeing what's around me, and more looking from like an upward perspective and looking down at the back of my head, like The Sims.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to make decisions in a third person tense, where I'll go, if I want Issa to achieve this, what do I need to make him do? And if I was playing The Sims and I was looking through the roof of my house, and the goal is to get the trash out to the street for pickup in the morning, then I would need to direct the character to go out the back door, down the stairs to the dumpster and grab the dumpster. And then I would need to direct him to take it to the street. And I think what stops us from functioning on such an efficient level is that we too often care how we feel. And I just don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like getting up and doing the work. And yeah, I think that's one of our biggest separators from oneness. I think that's where oneness lives. Like, stop seeing things out of your eyeballs and start seeing the world from that perspective, looking down. If you want the world to get better, so first it was like, I'm looking out of my eyes, I don't feel like doing it. And then it's, I'm looking from up here, how do I make this happen in my life? And then if you want to zoom out some more, how do I make the world better? And that's a lot harder to do, especially considering you only control one character. But you have to, there's a formula, there's a way to do it. You just have to figure it out. There's a combination of words that will get you anything you want. There's a combination of words you could say right now to a person that could get you arrested or get you $1 million or get you invited to their house. Like, you just have to figure out what the words are, and you have to put them together in the right order.
It's such a
yeah, that's like my philosophy. Like, I say that every day to somebody, and it's usually to my friend Chris. I say that to him all the time. But there's a combination of words to get you anything you want. You can talk life out of its panties.
I literally love how you said all of that, though, literally, about the Sims perspective, because I've been doing this as well, this kind of higher perspective thinking, just kind of zooming out. I really enjoy doing that. And it's almost a bit like a detachment, like what you were saying, almost like you were saying, detachment from the feeling.
Right.
Detachment from the feeling.
And you have to do that. Feelings are important, and I don't want to disregard them, but also they flatten your tires. If you don't process it and get over whatever it is, you don't move. So it can be, helpful in growth, and because feelings typically inspire growth or some type of learning process. And I think that's at their core, their intention. You have a feeling based on a scenario and you learn, oh, I enjoyed that, I'll do that again, or that didn't feel good, I don't want to do that again. But I think that's what feelings are meant for. But if you have a feeling and it's extended over 3 years because a thing happened 3 years ago, and in 3 years, if I ask you what's wrong with you, and you tell me about something that happened 3 years ago, there's a problem. And you haven't done any growing in 3 years. You've been on pause for 3 years.
So I was literally just about to say, you were talking about zooming out, but what if we choose to zoom in?
Oh, if you zoom in, you no longer see the forest for the trees. You're literally blind. If you've ever read the story of Oedipus Rex or Oedipus the King, the blind prophet told him he was blinder than him because of that exact thing. He was too zoomed in, and he was too close to see that he was wrong. And you're flailing in the dark at that point. You're literally, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
But what if we zoom more into the feeling, is what I'm saying. If we're zooming more into the feeling, then it's like,
then you should find,
why am I feeling like I don't want to take the bins out? Why am I feeling like, why is that feeling coming up? Let me explore that feeling. Where is that coming from?
You should do that. If that's what you meant, that's what you should do. You should zoom in, but that should lead to resolution. It's not wrong to have a feeling, and it's not wrong to have a feeling for a day. It's not wrong to have a feeling for maybe a couple days.
Yeah.
But if it takes up a week of your time, you only have like 4,000 weeks in your life. So if you're just going to give them away for nothing, then be my guest. It's your prerogative, but I won't. It's a waste of time. Feelings have a purpose, and they're not meant to take up your life.
I think you're very logical, though, because I know
I am.
You're a lot more logical, whereas I do base my life on my emotions. I live in my feelings, but is that because I'm female?
Maybe that is a female energy, but that's not necessarily bad. It's not bad to experience a lot of feelings. It's bad to let one feeling last for too long.
Okay, holding on to something.
Yeah, you should be. If you experience, if you go through 20 events and have 20 feelings, then you're right on par. I think you might even be ahead, because some people have several feelings after a single event. So If you have 20 feelings in 20 events, you're ahead of the game. My issue is if you had an event in December of 2015 and you're still crying about it in 2022, even if it's the loss of a loved one, that person wouldn't want you to still be crying. And that person on the other end, whatever religion you believe, if they're on the other side of whatever veil, they're not crying. They are enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
And the feelings you're having of sadness are actually selfishness. They're not mourning their death. You're mourning them because you desire to hold them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I always felt that about grief. It is quite a selfish thing, because you're wanting them to stay here, you're wanting them to be here. It's the attachment that is making you grieve. But at the same time, I don't want to take away the emotion of grief, because it is a very healing and releasing emotion, and it is human, and we are here to be human. So it is a very human experience. It is something that we have to go through. I've been experiencing something similar with I don't know if I should even talk about it, but it's like I travel a lot at night, and I went to a different timeline a couple of nights ago, which has really affected me. And it was about my dad passing. It was very vivid. I was there, and I felt that deep grief, I felt that. But because of the level of awareness I have around the illusion of where we are, I was also feeling and knowing that he wasn't gone forever. But yes, it was me. Like, I wanted him here, like it was just
right.
It was that detachment in the heart. Like, it really felt deep in the heart for me.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with having that feeling. But historically, there have been people that might have tried to resurrect the dead, and in that sense, wanting them, if you resurrect me from the dead, I'm going to be upset I'm back. I'm going to be angry that I'm back on this plane.
Yeah.
I finally made it out and you brought me back. So yeah, it's not for me. If you bring me back, it's definitely for you.
Yeah,
and
there are people actually that don't feel like us, Issa. There are people that would want to stay here. I know people that love it here.
I think they think they love it here, but I think if they experience the other side, they wouldn't want to come back. I think right now they can't imagine anything better than being rich. And people like that love it here because they live a very physical, very worldly life. And yeah, to them, that's what power is. Power equals money. And power doesn't equal money to me. Money equals survival for me. It's bare minimum. I just need to pay my bills. But I like doing things. I want money so I can do things, not because I feel like it gives me some sense of power. Just everything costs money.
Yeah.
But there's some people that don't feel that way. They feel like they have to have it. They need it. When they get their check, they'll withdraw it from the bank just so they can feel the paper. And it's just not me. And I think if you took that person and you could separate them from their body and let them experience what the spirit feels, I think they would be surprised at how little money meant afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, the people that I'm talking about actually are not attached to money in any way. They're quite conscious people, but they
love this life.
Yeah, like I had a friend that said to me, I don't understand people that say that they would never come back here because I love it here. But I am one of those people that say, I don't want to come back. I hope this is my last life, but that's just me. Like,
I hope we get to go like to a different world, like, and it's different. Like, man, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. Like,
I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I don't even want to be in a different world or a different realm. Sometimes I feel like I want to cease to exist. I want to be that stillness. Like, I just want to be that silence?
I feel like in a past life, I would have been, I don't know, maybe it's childish. Maybe everybody feels this way, but some type of warrior, or back when times were simple, or they were probably complicated, but they're simpler than they are now. And I feel like in a world of like ancient times, I would have thrived. And I would like to experience something like that, maybe temporarily. You know, you have some people that want to experience the zombie apocalypse, you know, just for a week or just for a day. I'm like, but I would like
That's
to
not
go
the one
back.
I would want to experience. No, thanks.
No, but you've got every type of
Reality.
fantasy out. Yeah, and I would like to go back in time. So if there is another life for me afterwards, maybe ancient Egypt, maybe answer some of my questions, you know. But no, I don't particularly want to be on this plane. You know, I would like to see what's next.
Yeah. Do you feel kind of impatient?
Sometimes I feel impatient. Sometimes I feel like we've just overcomplicated it, you know?
But I just feel like wherever you are in a human body, I feel like any human experience is going to be challenging, because that is the point. That's the purpose. That's why.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course. They're fragile. You know, you're in a human body. It's a very fragile thing. You know, you're out here with, and just about any animal can kill you. You know, they say we're the top of the food chain because we're smart, but you know, you end up in a cage with a lion, it won't feel like the top of the food chain. So
Yeah.
I mean, we're actually fairly fragile beings, and you know, we walk around here heads held high and confident every day, you know, in a machine that could explode or be hit by another machine every day, going 70, 80 miles an hour, you know, and yeah, it's rather fleeting. Life isn't, you know, as permanent as we think it.
Well, I like that. Like, I like that things change. It would be very boring if everything stayed the same or everything was consistent. I try to embrace the change. Obviously, the darkness is difficult, but I've learned how to kind of lean in and surrender and accept those moments. And actually, what I find is those moments of darkness are where the deep, beautiful lessons come from, you know, those deep divine teachings are given in the darkness, you know. I would just want to loop it back, but did you have something to say?
Yeah, the human being learns from two experiences, and those are epiphany and trauma. And it's rarely epiphany, mostly trauma. But yeah, you're right. It is. The challenges foster growth, and you know, you have to either have an epiphany about a challenge before it breaks you and you learn your lesson, or you have to be broken and learn a lesson and rebuild and come back again. And those are really the two avenues of education. And so you're right. Uh, there is a beauty in the challenge of life.
Yeah, I feel like the conversation of the human experience should be another topic for another episode, because that's quite a vast topic as well. But I also think it's a very important topic to talk about, because there are loads of people struggling out there, you know. But I just wanted to loop back into the love topic of attachment and detachment. Because do you feel that there can still be love in detachment?
Yes. And typically, I think that happens when one party is unaware of their behavior and are rather toxic or have toxic behavior. It would be necessary for the other party to detach. And, you know, that doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means that their presence is not beneficial or harmful. So yeah, there can be love and detachment in circumstances.
Because I also think it is powerful to detach.
And it's self-love. Loving others should never come at the cost of self-love. You should be able to love other. If it's a healthy love, you should be able to love them and yourself without what's the word? Retracting from yourself or taking away from yourself. So, yeah, I think when loving another costs you self-love, there's a need for detachment.
Yeah, I think self-love is a lifelong process.
It is.
And
it's on a continuum. It's not I have achieved self-love, I now love me. It's how much do you love you? There's levels, because I love me, but I'm sure I could love myself better and more.
absolutely.
And so everything's on a continuum. One of the biggest lessons I learned in therapy would be that everything's on a continuum. Trust, love, all these things. I trust my wife to keep all the secrets I tell her, but I also trust her to be, I don't trust her to be on time. So I trust her. If you ask me, do you trust this woman? Yes, I trust this woman. But if you ask me to be somewhere on time, I wouldn't trust her to do it. So, everything's on a continuum. Love, you can love people and there's mile markers. There's a level of love that equals the love that you give a friend, and then there's a level of love that you give to your mother, and then there's a level of love you give to your spouse.
Yeah.
And then there's a special kind of love you have for children. And there's love you give to strangers that you see that are in need. And then there should be a general love that you carry in everything you do, and that doesn't mean that you're a pushover and you say yes, but it means that lovingly I have to decline.
But that ties into boundaries, that ties into self-love. And I feel like self-love is also about self-realization, because you go deeper into yourself and you have these deeper realizations of yourself through the journey of self-love.
You have to know what you're loving. Yeah,
exactly. There was another point that you made that I was going to make a point about. Oh yes, loving another human being. Yeah, because that seems to be the most difficult one, to love a stranger.
Yeah, that's difficult.
That is a very difficult love, because you're so detached from that person. You don't know that person, but to show love to a stranger.
It's not hard if you take the time. It's not hard to put yourself in another person's shoes. And I think that's where love begins. If you're walking down the street and you see a homeless person, his predicament is written all over him in so many ways. Like, you can tell this person is homeless, you can tell they're in need, and you could put yourself in their position and you could feel some form of empathy. And that's where love begins, extending your emotions in an unnecessary manner. You don't necessarily have to sit here and think that, but you're extending your emotions to a place that's unpleasant, and you're doing it for the benefit of another. And that is love at a very minimal form.
Yeah.
And we should, at minimum, you can consider the people around you and consider their situation.
Yeah, I think it very much does tie into compassion as well.
For sure.
Is there anything else you want to say on this topic before we close it down?
Love each other. Everybody should love each other.
I think the biggest thing that I want to say is about getting into the heart, feeling into your own heart space, because once you're in that space, it opens you up to gratitude, to compassion. And I feel like it's a lot easier to unite when you're in the heart space as well, because the heart is a very uniting space. It's the mind that separates. It's the mind that loves to separate everything. The heart loves to unite everything.
I agree. I think going into that space and really understanding why you feel and what you feel. You know, a lot of times you just know that you're feeling unpleasant. You don't really know what you're feeling. But understanding those things is a key step into accepting who you are, and acceptance is a key step into loving yourself.
Yeah.
And you know, you fix what you can and fix the things that need to be fixed. But the rest of it, you know, you kind of accept who you are. You have to accept the person that is. There's no sense in wishing you were someone else.
Mm. Yeah, again,
Maybe improve self, maybe, but I wouldn't. I mean, don't wish to be someone who already exists.
I used to
Don't
do that,
wish.
you know, when I was younger.
Yeah, I mean, Idris Elba's a pretty smooth guy, very GQ. But
Not
I'm glad I'm Issa.
not as
Huh?
smooth as you. He's not as
Yeah,
smooth
I'm
as
good.
you.
I'm glad I'm Issa. I'm glad I'm me. And I would be doing myself a disservice and a disjustice or an injustice to be disregarding my own value in hopes for another's.
Yeah.
You know, I am. That's you know, back to the first three words. You know, you break down in the esoteric. I am, understanding that I exist.
Yeah. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you gonna carry on with that? I felt like you're gonna
Yeah,
have
I'm done. I was gonna say I think therefore I am, but you know, I am is powerful in itself.
yeah. And so just love yourself. I think that's the most important type of love. Yeah, like you're saying, that's the priority love right there. And what a different world that we would live in if everyone did love themselves. But also just appreciate and accept and surrender and love where you're at the moment. Because for me, can I love myself more? Yes, I could definitely love myself more. I am where I am at the moment. It's a progress. It is a process. And I will get there. And as we both agreed, self-love is a long life journey. So
Agreed.
Yeah. So we've
Long life.
circled to agreement in love.
Right. I love agreement.
Oh, amazing. Well, thanks so much, Issa. It was amazing doing another one of these with you.
I know it's been too long. We should do them again.
Well,
I think
human experience will be the next one.
Okay, human experience.
So we'll see you
Sounds good.
all next time.
Ba-da-ba.